Most contractor websites convert less than 0.5% of traffic. Photo galleries look great, but they just don't close deals. Today, a former Google insider shows you what actually does. I work with builders who have 40, 50 plus active jobs in their directory. Their crews take photos and write daily logs every single day. And all of that content just sits in their system, job trend or builder trend, doing nothing for their pipeline. Joe Toscano grew his family's auto shop from 3 to 11 million. And his breakthrough was pretty simple. You're already taking the notes, so why do the work twice? Here's what caught me off guard. Joe says traditional SEO isn't dying, but there's a layer on top of it that nobody in construction is talking about. Specifically, 2.5 billion AI search queries every single week. Homeowners are asking ChatGPT and Google who to hire, and the builders creating content now are building a moat their competitors just can't touch. In this video, Joe does a live demo, signs up from scratch, generates a full week of content in 20 minutes. You need to see it. If you're new here, hit subscribe. We break down systems like this every single week. I've been looking forward to this one, so let's get after it. You're listening to Beyond the Bid, the show by Go First, where we share the systems, strategies, and practical AI for builders. Keep listening to learn how to win more of the right projects, boost profitability, and scale beyond the bid. All right, and we're live. Welcome in, Joe. Thanks so much for being here. I've been stoked for this all week.
Yeah, same, man. I'm so happy to be home from travels and settled to have this podcast. It's been like a month we've been talking about this.
I know, seriously. It's been good, though. I mean, you've been... Actually, you know what? I forgot to click on this. We'll make it official.
Yeah.
There it is.
There.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been chatting, like you said, a little bit more than, or maybe a month at this point. And yeah. I love what you guys are doing at Service Stories. Like, I think it's so impactful, or will be so impactful for pretty much every person in the trades who needs to tell a story.
Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, I feel the same way. Coming into the trades, the fact home services is kind of a new industry for me to learn at whole, but even just having seen what it did for my family's auto shop and the way you can take a service business at large and tell its story of its daily work, that was really cool for me. That's why I'm so excited about it, because I was doing that work. I was the person creating all the content, following the technicians around, yanking on their shirts, trying to get stories, put it together in a meaningful way, and do it repeatedly every single week, and maybe sometimes multiple weeks or multiple times a week. So I know the pain. I think this is going to be really fun for people to use.
Yeah. And that's that's the key point of it too, is, taking that extra burden of going and, borderline harassing your team. Hey, how did that project go? Tell me the update on it.
For sure. And who wants to take photos, right? Like, everybody's like, hey, I'm working. I'm like, get away, go away. So I get the pain.
I think that's a really good place to start from is, at least in our world of like residential construction, yeah, almost every builder and contractor, their websites generally look the same, right? You got like the homepage, their services about us, and then like a gallery or a portfolio that it's great that they're all, in the beautiful homes. Very few of them actually tell a decent story. It's just a collage of photos.
Yeah.
We can focus on that. Like, why click the button? All photo galleries don't sell and what actually does.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big thing here is that the photo galleries do sell. We should start there. It does sell as what it is today. It helps a lot, right? It's proof that you did the work. It's a visible thing that shows how it turned out, all those kind of things. But then there's a whole story behind it. Why did the person come to you in the first place? What were their needs? What were the challenges that your team had to work through? Maybe there's new things you never experienced before. How did it result, and why did it turn out that way? What does someone do if they want the same thing they're looking at? How do they get a hold of you? All those things are important parts of a story. And I think that the hardest part about making that kind of content is very detailed, right? Trying to take that on a case-by-case basis, not just like a monthly. Like, how successful do you feel when you get a case study put together that you get up on your website? All the work it takes to get all those photos together just alone, right? And organize it, put it into the CMS, get it up on your website. That alone feels like an accomplishment for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Let alone, how do I do that and do it for every single property and tell the story of the whole journey?
Absolutely.
Hell no, right? Never before. You're just like, no way I could do that all the time. But that's what we're helping people do.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, and you know, some of the guys that I work with, I know they have 40 plus active jobs in job trader and builder trend. So I can only imagine, you know, from an automotive or a plumber or HVAC, you know, any home services, I'm sure it's just astronomical the amount of jobs that they have going on.
Of course. And all your notes are in your system, right? And that's kind of where the insight for the work we do is like you're already taking the notes. Why do you need to do the work twice? And not only take the notes, but then convert the notes into a story. You know, that was the biggest insight I had when I was at my family's auto shop. It was how do I take the work that these guys do every day? They walk out, they greet customers, they listen to them, right? They
Yeah.
literally drive people's cars and feel the pain and try to understand it. They take notes of all those problems and the customer concerns. Then they go make a list of the work that needed to be done and the parts and labor, all that kind of stuff. All we did in the beginning, all I started to do was think, how could I just extract that from the database, the management tool we use, and turn it into content? So Service Stories is born out of, yes, those stories today are good. They're valuable. And there are people all over who have done case studies. But Service Stories was born out of the idea of how do we tell a full story, not just have galleries, not just have one-off, once-a-month type stuff that we get out. How do we make it consistent? How do we tell the full story of the business? And most importantly, I think to a lot of people listening, how do we do it in a way that also helps you rank higher? SEO, AI search, all the places you want to be. Because managing and wrangling all that content, not just on your website, but on your Google business profile, your LinkedIn, wherever you are, becomes a tangled mess.
100%. I mean, that is a mess that I think every business owner is currently struggling with. You know, like I I thought I had a pretty decent handle SEO in terms of our keyword and our how we're using keywords and our PPC and everything. But now with AEO, or answer engine optimization, people are just so lost in terms of what works, how to how to pop up on ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, hopefully Claude, and so there's so many different directions that you can go when you find yourself in that rabbit hole, and people just need guidance, really.
Yeah. Well, I think what's happening, unfortunately, is people are feeling this real pain that things are changing and they don't know why in full. That's part of it. But then the second part that makes it worse is all the inflammatory, SEO's dying, you're gonna fall behind, like you have to do this or you're gonna be off the face of the earth. And I want to start with like telling people that that's not fully true, right? It's changing for sure. But if you've made a good investment in SEO, if you understand what you're looking at, like a lot of the foundations you have today are still going to help you for quite some time, if not for the rest of the time. You'll just have to do things in addition to it. And that's the thing that we've all experienced over time. Google's always changed their algorithm. But sometimes it's like micro changes, right? This is something I learned when consulting out of Google. They have a big incentive to change it because a lot of people want to hack it, right? So it is always, literally always changing. But then there's also the flip side, which is they have big macro events, either in computing history or just Google's business model, that the algorithm changes to incentivize that stuff that they need to get done. So you can think of that like back in the day when we went from all of our computing on a computer that's on our desktop or laptop into a world where we were using our phones. Google started to incentivize that your website could perform better on a phone or mobile device, right? All your core web vitals, you can see all that stuff, page speed, mobile, all that stuff, right? Then later on, this is actually when I was at Google, they started to want to make Google business profiles more prominent. Back then it was called Google My Business. Right? So Google business profiles today, much better, much more descriptive. But, they said now if you don't have a profile filled out, you're not going to rank as high, right? They always have changed and it always will. So what you have today and any investment you've made is going to hold strong for a while, but you just have to know over the next 2 to 3 years, at the most, there will be a shift towards this new world where people aren't answering or people aren't searching for, car care near me as much. They're not maybe saying, HVAC emergency near me. They're going to their phone, they're picking it up, and they're having full conversations with it. The same as you and I might send a voice text to a friend.
Yeah.
And that's how people search. So it's just a different world. And I think the good news is it's all green land. We just go things that we can go capture today. There's nobody who's already picked up that opportunity. It's creating all these new questions and conversations people can ask the internet, which means it's a bunch of new content that you could create. The hard part is how do you do it, because there's so many nuances.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So many different directions, and getting back to that initial thing too is like, okay, I'm managing, we'll say 60 projects at once. How do I, or maybe not even projects, but where do I even begin with, with creating content?
Yep. Yeah, and that's why, with what we're working on, phase one it has always just been to help people create the content. You can go in to our interface, which we'll show a demo here of the version one coming out here in April. But you can go in and it'll show all your tickets. You pick it, you generate stories, and that's how you get started. But the more important part in the phase two that we're going to be launching later in Q2 is actually helping you categorize them. So, what is the content that might be trending right now? What are the pieces of content that might give you a competitive advantage over your competitors? Because we can help you analyze that. What are things that need to be refreshed? And those are when we're talking about blogs, think of all the things that you've written in the past, and you want to keep those. Those are the short tail keywords. Those are the top and mid funnel type blogs. And what we're helping you write is the bottom of the funnel, where people, the psychology, something else people should really think about with this. The psychology behind answer engines versus traditional search engines is different. The example I always bring up is, when I was consulting at Google, they always said the biggest competitor is Facebook. And that throws everybody for a loop, right? You're like, Bing, or we knew about Yandex in Russia was something we were watching, right? But like, no, it's not the other searches. It was Facebook, because they're an advertising business and they're pure advertising. And so when you pay for Google versus Facebook ads, it's a different price. Facebook users are browsing. They're there to be entertained. They're not there to search and buy. So it takes a lot more impressions for you to convert them. Google is a different psychology.
Yeah.
Google is people who are actively searching for something. And so it's much more likely they're going to convert upon finding you. And that's why you pay more. Well, with these answer engines, it's a next layer deeper. At this point, they've had a conversation with the AI. You better hope that that AI is speaking about your business the way you'd hope it does, right? So there's an opportunity to control that conversation. Number two, they've asked all the questions back and forth. They believe they know what they're talking about, and they come to your website or wherever it is, and they're just ready to book. They're just ready to go. The opportunity to close the deal is much higher. The research is already showing that. The ROI on investing in this stuff is going to be much higher too. And by being early, you could see the same kind of lift that early adopters of SEO saw. Right? They definitely saw outsized advantages and earnings, and we now have a new paradigm that people can take that opportunity again.
100%. Yeah. I love that. I mean, AI it's so ridiculously powerful in so many different areas, but I think, the multimodal context is what really separates it versus, the traditional search on Google or Yandex or anything where it's, contractor near me or window installer near, or whatever it is. It's the context around, I live in a house that was built in 1975 with single pane windows that were installed, from this builder way back when. So it's going to have, a steel pane around it that needs to be taken out. That level of context that you just can't really get in a simple Google search.
Mm-hmm.
That's where like the specialties and the niches really outperform like a sub that, like your family's shop. You guys probably, I think did you specialize in European cars? I can't remember.
No, we didn't. We had a European guy, but we also have a shop in LA that specializes in European. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So like that, even just that granularity, being able to, say Claude knows that I drive an Audi as an example, and says, oh, weird, you should probably take it to these guys because they specialize in that, and it's within 10 miles of your house, and blah 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 blah.
Right. Yeah. Imagine if you have 50 blog posts about different things you've done to a, BMW X5. You've seen the problem, you've seen it 10 different ways, you've already validated it. The computer engine knows that. And then when someone asks, well, they know you're the person to deal with it because no one else has made that kind of content. They just don't know how. The same thing can apply for home services. And I think we should also, take a moment to talk about the what you're talking about here, the change of search too, because I've talked to a lot of people who are like, I don't think it's gonna pick up, or it's just a fad. I hear that, and I understand if you don't use it a lot, it's hard to understand why people would switch, right? The system, you're set, and it's cool. But the fact of the matter is, more than 2.5 billion people are searching using conversational search, AI search, every week now. It's a lot of people, a lot of searches. Maybe not people, sorry, searches, 2.5 billion queries, right? It's a lot. Probably low end, you're talking at least 100 million people, right? It's a lot of people. And the real big thing that people need to think about is that it's not just a fad or new technology that people are playing with. Like, it's a thing that this is the next progression of computing. And as someone who's been in tech for now going on 15 years and spent a long time speaking around the world on basically internet history and impact, I can tell you the earliest days of computing, we had machines that we had to use punch cards. If you're not familiar with the history, that means we have a literal physical card. It's got punch holes in it. You're sliding it in and you're working with the computer. Like, nobody wanted to pick that up, right? That's not fun. Okay. The next phase was command line interfaces, which, like, developers, engineers, we still use that today to do some of the work that we do. But that is you learning how to more or less program a computer to work with it. So maybe a little bit better than a binary. It's maybe a little more human, but it's still very machine. And you didn't see a lot of people pick up computing through the 50s, 60s, 70s, all that. Once you get into graphical computing, that's click and drag, that's click, double click, open kind of stuff. That's when we saw computers go mainstream. Even a little child can point at the cookie jar on the counter and scream, and you'll know that they want the cookies. So when we could point and click on icons and use a computer, it just became so much easier, right? We had a couple phases between then and where we are today that were not as, revolutionary. Definitely test and experimental stuff out in Silicon Valley, but these conversational interfaces, these AIs, they're not that. Because what's actually happening is, for the first time in computing history, the computers are learning our language instead of us learning theirs. What we're about to do is open a market that people have never had before, which is, people who didn't know how to use a computer can now just talk to it. People who don't have the full modalities, maybe whether that's fingers to click on the buttons or that's eyes for sight, whatever it may be, can now just speak with a computer and have things work. So they have an economic imperative, to grow this. They want to, they will. And once it gets there, it will be much more enjoyable. Today, sometimes these interfaces are not great because people are just experimenting with what they can do, but they're going to get better, and it's going to be a part of our lives.
And it's growing so ridiculously fast too.
Yeah. Yes. Very fast.
Like you said, the low end is 100 million.
Yeah.
Conversation.
It's a lot of people. A lot of people.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's a remarkable time to be alive. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really cool to see the robots when I was in China, like the advancements all over. I mean, we have them here too, but like, man, the AI, the stuff that you can do and the world's making is pretty wild. So
I remember a few years ago, I was at a construction tech conference, and one of the Atlas robots from Boston Dynamics was like walking around, and I shook its hand, and that was like a crazy thing. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I don't even know.
How they can dance. I mean, I can't dance. I can't dance, I'm like, you're going to take my girl.
So, yeah. Seriously, we got to be careful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like on a, in our worlds, there's tools like Job Trend, Builder Trend, or Jobber, so many different things out there that people are already using to try and like document their work and to forecast and, cover their asses with when things go wrong.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like I personally see that as a tremendous area of opportunity for not just content, but just for standardizing, context. But maybe you can talk a little bit about like the areas of opportunity that you guys really see that are taking off with how to aggregate information and tell better stories.
Sure. Well, I think one of the biggest challenges we faced in the beginning was how do we get the context appropriate to make this good? Because the truth is, you could go out to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you prefer, and you could do what we're doing. It's not going to be fast all the time, but you could do it. You got to have probably 3 or 4 different tools. You probably got a lot of editing involved because what you see if you did that is that number one, creating any kind of workflow or standardized procedure in those services can be done, but often at this point in history, it's still mostly shared with just yourself, right? It's something that's private or lightly shareable with certain parts of these services. Number two, you got a lot of work to build the context. That's really valuable, but like I said, if you grow or if you need to share with anybody, you got to retrain on them too. So having centralized knowledge of your business and your industry and all that is a big part of the value we provide. And it develops based on your usage as well. So as we take in more items, as we take in more work, our system's going to learn from that as well and get better. And I think what that does is, or at least what our goal has always been, is whereas ChatGPT and some of these may get you 70, 80% of the way, maybe even 90 sometime, we want to get you to 99%. We want to print content for you and useful information for your business that you don't have to barely take a second glance at. And the way we do that is by building this library of knowledge for every different business type and industry, like you're talking about. What that means, that's SEO keywords that this business type might want to commonly own. That's your service categories of what you offer and how to describe them and what the customer value is. That's industry slang and jargon. We need to know that C/S means customer stated. We need to know that LOF means lube oil filter. That's maybe not stuff that AI is going to pick up immediately, even with the appropriate context. And so we have some of that context built in to help define things that AI may otherwise hallucinate. And it's only getting better as people use it. So that's a big value. That's how we convert, the topic there about the gold mine you're sitting on with content you didn't even know about. I mean, yeah, just imagine the work you'd have to do. I can tell you, I've mapped out for you. You're going to spend anywhere from 2 to 5 hours just one blog post, right?
Yeah. And even if you're techie and have like a Claude skill built out that streamline most of it, I can assure you, you're still not going to be able to get to the level that, one is scalable, having all of your mechanics or your subs or your whole team want to be able to reproduce it. But then two, it's, the amount of work that goes into setting it all up and you having to take all that information, the context, the stories, and plug it into your tool. Yeah, Claude or Gemini or whatever.
Maintain it, keep it updated, all those things, right? Like, it's a lot.
That's what the people who build out all these vibe coded apps, they don't really think about.
Right. That's the off the shelf stuff. And vibe code's good for certain things, right? There are a lot of little quick apps that are valuable to do that, but this is pretty complicated. And beyond complication of actual steps and workflow, the reality that nobody says out loud, except for the owners I talk to when it comes to AI, is how are you going to keep my data private? How are you going to protect me? Because I don't want to feed all this sensitive information into an AI system, right? And that's another big thing we're building in. Whereas, ChatGPT, Claude, ChatGPT especially, Claude maybe a little bit better about it, but all those services, their whole business model is to absorb everything you pipe in and turn it into their IP, right? Yeah. For us, we make money by creating better content. And so we do use your documents to train our AI services to make them better. But we are not out to, recreate your business, right? Like some of, these other services maybe, or spy on you or sell it to people. And that's a big value, right? As a product company, that's why we can do that, because you pay us for that, right? The privacy. In future states of this, we see also, a lane where we probably are going to have to build on-prem services. So if you don't know what that means like you have a server somewhere, we're going to set up on your office or somewhere that's your owned space, and your data just stays locally. I did data privacy for almost 10 years. If you look at my background in the social dilemma and some of the things I did, I was a global leader in some data privacy and protection. I actually helped draft one of the first data privacy laws to cascade across the U.S. for kids, called the Safe for Kids Act in New York, help with that. That then hit California and Texas, and Nebraska, and a bunch of other places. So I'm a big believer that data is valuable. I'm a big believer that it should be turned into businesses and help the world. But I'm also a big believer that people shouldn't have to be concerned about all the nasty parts of data privacy that comes along with being on the internet. And I think that's something that differentiates us too. We focus on managing it. We're there to produce a product for you, not just surveillance.
It's huge. Yeah. That's cool. I didn't actually know that about your background.
Yeah, sorry, I got a little deep on that one. We haven't talked, but I'm really passionate about it. Yeah, that was so after I left Google, I wrote a book called Automating Humanity. And the book was all about how we can create tech that is humane with what we are already trying to do. That's kind of scary, basically, right?
Yes.
How do we take that concept and make it safe? So that book went on to inform the antitrust investigations on Facebook and Google. It's been taught. I know I've had classrooms literally like France, Canada, US across that, as low as 6th grade are teaching my book.
Whoa.
In classrooms. Yeah. And then that fed into The Social Dilemma, which is the most watched technology documentary in the history of the world.
Yeah.
So I was a featured expert in that at age 28 and went on a national news tour for about 3 years, just kind of helping people understand what's going on and how to be safer and help make some regulations and things like that. But this for me, why I built this, I have all this knowledge of tech and how it works. And a big part of what drives me to make this successful and valuable to people is also because I do want to keep making those impacts in the world. But I thought at that age, the best way for me to do that is actually to go build a business that can help fund the impact I want to make in the world. And so, yeah, this business is my creative expression. This is I love tech and I love making life good for people. And I hope that comes through it because then that's going to help me make impact long term.
Very well said. I love that.
Yeah.
That's huge. So just talking about telling your stories specifically, I know just from the the chance that we've had, you guys are doing so much work within, the automotive industry and home services, which are generally shorter duration projects, right?
Yep.
In terms of expanding to home remodels or even a custom home builder, which could be a year plus long project. How do you in that story kind of adapting to with their SEO? I'm sorry, with the story and their web search traffic.
Yeah, I'm excited to just see what people want to do with this tool. We have people coming to us with all different ways they want to use it. And it's super cool for me because I'm like, well, we didn't build it for that, but technically that could work. And wow, you have there's a lot of people who might want that, right? It's pretty cool to see it happen that way. But something, we talked about is, the daily logs, the concept of how could we convert daily logs into micro, case studies or stories, or, could you aggregate those into some kind of weekly update for the person you're doing work for, all those kind of things. I think there's a lot of content that can be made out of these, notes effectively that are not just for SEO or marketing purposes. And, similarly, we've had, dentists who want to come in and use it for internal training, showing people the work and what we did and how to do better next time. So there's a lot of cool things that people are floating our way. And the thing I'm most excited about with it is really to dream with you, to figure out how do we make this more valuable for you? And what does that look for not only you, but your industry?
I love that.
Yeah.
Most of the tools that have actually resonated with me the most, I would say over the last year and some change, actually kind of have a similar approach. A tool I use almost on the daily is called Gamma. And it's just amazing because it very similar to what you just said. It just adapts, to make whatever you need in terms of client facing proposal or document or whatever. I think that's kind of almost the evolution of SaaS and software as we know it.
Yeah. I think what you're talking about is the frame of we're switching from software as a service to AI as a service, right? It's the next step is AI, what they call AI native. So instead of I click a couple buttons and the AI does something, it's full workflows from start to beginning that, processes are automated in full. And I think that's getting us to the paradigm that's always been spoke about, which is Steve Jobs at one point said that the computer was going to be like a bicycle for the mind. The reality is we're getting there right now. I think we spent not just spent, we still are in an era where, the physical body is and was used for labor, but it was much bigger, 100 years ago when like that was all that was available, right? With steam engine allowed us to move faster, different, cranes and stuff allowed us to lift things that we couldn't before. The human body got extended. And what we're doing right now is the brain. And we're making people more capable with machines. Maybe we're making them more dumb. We don't know. If you don't have to think critically anymore, it might be more dumb. But I think generally it's good. And I think where AI is going to succeed is that it amplifies people. It doesn't automate them. I think that's what's going to happen. The most successful.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the most successful companies will kind of acknowledge that over time and pick it up.
Yeah. The nice thing too about this era, I mean, I've done both design and code for quite some time. So, even the vibe code tools and all that, it's a nice thing for me. But what it's really doing is it's just allowing me to not have to think as hard and all things. I could just like execute, which is pretty cool, because for years it was something where like you have to know what function to call at what moment, what order to put things in. And like just learning that was such a huge learning curve. People didn't want to code. But what's happening with these new vibe code systems and AI coding systems is it's allowing people who are less technical to just execute. And I think what you're also seeing, kind of what your point out there when you said that you've talked to multiple newer companies or founders who are really, able to bring a user's vision, like the buyer's vision to life, is partly because of that. We can execute better, faster. It doesn't require as much investment capital or private money to go and make this thing happen. So you're not as tied to those incentives, all those kind of things. I think this is the new era of software though too. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Every time I pick up a new tool or just like a new, I guess it's still software. Technically it's still software.
Yeah.
Anytime I see that kind of in their roadmap or in their user instance, I'm just blown away because it's like you nailed it. It's workflow. It's improving workflows, not just here's a better hammer.
Yes, right. We need a different kind of tool, not just a 3-pound hammer instead of a 2-pound hammer, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
but yeah, maybe we can just do a quick 5-10 minute show and tell if you're comfortable with just.
Sure. Yeah. I'm very excited. Yes, I have been waiting for this moment. Okay, let's turn it on. So yep, I got that. And I can just click share screen and present. There we go. This is super cool.
Yeah, shout out to Contrast. This tool is talking about more software. The tool that we're hosting on it, it's pretty remarkable.
It is. No, I've been on a lot of podcasts and this is nice. I really like it. So I'm going to sign up from scratch. Okay. And we're going to just go from 0 to 1 and you can see how quickly we can get to a product. Let's see. And let's do beyondthebid@gmail.com. And that is my personal email if you want to reach out. It's mostly for spam, so but let's do that. Now it's going to send me a confirmation code. Got that. Yeah. Security. No, I'm a really big believer in that. I think that the laws are not going to move fast enough to really protect as much. So I think we really have to just build software that does it for people. There you go. Okay. 082583. We're in. Look at that. Now my company, I'm just going to fill it in. Gosh, poor typing. Okay. It's acmerepair.com. Of course, this is a fake company, and then you can pick your business type, which I'm doing auto repair mechanical. Yep.
When you type in or when you select one of those business types, will the interface change at all based off of the type of business that you're starting or that you created?
The business type, it doesn't affect the interface. What it will do is it'll affect the data that is mapped to your business and the context of the content. And that's something I can show after we, create a story. So here is the interface you land on, and you get 30 days for free. Like, I'm such a big believer that this is going to work for you. I gave you 30 days because I believe that's how much it's going to take for you to see like any kind of meaningful bump. And so I want you to see it. And if you don't like it, get out. right? Like that's my theory. I think this is something you're gonna like. I think it's gonna work really well, and yeah, I don't think you'll be upset about paying for it once you see the value. So that's how we have that set up. Now I gotta get an integration set up for you. Watch how quick this happens. But we connect, and now you can see not synced. Come here, sync now, and we will start to see tickets come in. So now it's connected, and then what we see is that the work items come in. Now, every work item that you have in your system will get pulled, and it comes on a nightly basis into Service Stories. This is our MVP. This is where we're starting. The next phase is we're going to help you cluster these and organize it and sort and filter faster. But let's say we want to work on the mount and balance 2 tires on a 2011 Dodge Caravan. Now, what you can see is it has a quick little summary based on what was on the ticket. This is obviously very light. This was a small job for us, but it's as quick as this. You can confirm that this is what you actually want to do the content about. If you need to update the location, which for a lot of you in home services is going to be more of a service area location rather than an office location like it is in an auto shop. But you confirm all that. Once it's good, you click generate stories, and it takes maybe 30 seconds to a minute. But those pop up, and what I'm going to do while we wait is I'm going to do Martha Stewart style, and you can see
Order the oven.
it's already been created. Woo! That. But yeah, so this is what it looks like. You click generate story, and then it will go through and it will create a blog, right? Again, we're launching in April, so some of the design's still coming along, but it'll come through and give you here's what it looks like when your HVAC system's failing. And this is something the consumer can read. This is public facing. Here's diagnostic evidence. This is like the professional understanding of what happened. Here's how we did the work, the restoration. Here are some things that people might ask that would lead to the same thing, because guess what? We're trying to show AI if people ask anything kind of similar like this, maybe source this post. And then there's FAQ, and then there's the CTA, getting them to convert. Having that all built with context based on the data from your business, your location, and the ticket itself. Editing is as easy as pulling up the editor over here. And you want to switch to your Facebook post or your Google review or your Google business post, whatever it is, you can see it rendered as if it were on the platform itself. See more, see the whole thing.
That's great.
Come over, edit if you want to. Upload any assets you have or pick from your pre-existing photo library, which obviously this is just an ugly one I was testing with, but you can see it, preview everything. Once you're satisfied, then you come over and you select how you want to publish. So do you want AI to do it for you based on the analytics and when you've performed best in the past? Well, we can do that. When you authenticate in your Facebook page, we go grab the data and we look at what's performed the best, and then we analyze it and we help you pick a time that's best, and we'll just do it. You don't think.
That's huge.
I think it's gonna. God, that was scheduling's one of the worst parts. If you want to be, outlaw, you can just gunsling it, publish now, and fire it out. You can add to a queue. We've made it so that, like, let's say you're like, I want to do seasonal content Tuesday and Thursday. I want to do kitchen renovations Wednesday and Friday, and I want to do bathroom remodels Monday and Thursday. You can set up a queue for those types of things and tell us what time you want them to go out at. And every time you add their queue, it'll just be next in line. So again, you don't have to think as much when it goes out. Or for those of you who really like full control, there is the manual schedule right here. So pick your date and time, set schedule, and let it fly. And that's as easy as it is. I mean, imagine from from the login through picking a ticket to creating the content, which this is the one that we skipped on, now done, edit and publish. You could get that done in, probably 10 or 15 minutes, I think is what I would estimate. Get all the content done for the week in maybe 20 or 30 minutes.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
very excited
very excited about it. Now, what I want us to go over real quickly, though, is what you asked in the beginning, which is when I add a business type, what does that do for me? Here you can see auto body, auto detailing, everything has been added. What we do when you sign up, this is obviously the demo account, so nothing there yet, but we go to your website, we crawl. The functionality we'll have in April is that you will have a company summary and brand voice auto-generated. You can change it how you want. So that context will improve the story and put it in your voice. Other context included.
Brand voice is good. You don't want to just leave it at brand voice is good.
Mine is really good. So that's all it needs to know is brand voice is good. But the service story is then based on, you saw the tags of the services and the keywords. For every business type, a database of common services and the description of the service and the customer value, so that when you sign up and you tell us a business type, we apply the defaults. You can delete them if you don't want it. You can add more if we don't have specific ones. Or just based on what you see, you can say, you know what? I want more brake work, but I want less belts and hoses. They don't really make me a lot of money. I want to have more diagnostic work. My guys can get that done fast. And I want less drivetrain because it's just a pain in my tail. And what that'll do when you create the content is then when we have, 10 line items on a work item, a service ticket, whatever it may be, we can determine what part do you want to promote the most in the content. And the reason I built that is because, in an auto shop, there's a lot of times you'll have an oil change on a job. Either you just threw it on there for, saying thanks because it's a big job, or just add it on because they wanted it. And we were getting blogs written, where the ticket was about a $6,000 engine rebuild, and it would come out and say, here's why you want to get your oil changed. You don't want that, right? You want to talk about the big, why did people come in, the big story. So that's what this allows you to do, and change the content. Ideally, where we get long-term is this can also help you dial in and turn it up and say, I need more brake jobs right now. Let's put out more content about it. Let's get the SEO up on it. Let's get more of those jobs in the door. So that's where we're kind of hoping we get. And then down below, you can see keywords, jargon, acronyms, same kind of thing. It's the context of like I said, C/S means customer says. All those kind of things, like AI might not get this right off the belt. Eventually, we'll have error codes and labor guides built in as well, so we can have a really good context and sound like a professional. And that's how we get you, like I said in the beginning, from a state where you're not getting 70, 80, 90% of the way there, you're going to get 99% of the way there. Like, I would love it if eventually we could understand how you like to edit things and what you really look for, to where we're just going to surface the tickets you're most likely to want to create content about. And then as you work through this, these are going to be edited and output on the first try like you would like it. Eventually maybe you just turn on a full AI system and say, just let it fly. I don't know how many people will get there, and that might be a year or two before we have anything like that. But yeah, that's kind of our end goal, is to really become the AI that helps you with your marketing. If you have a team and you're growing, you don't have to grow that team a ton to work with you. You keep the same team, they could just do more because you have AI helping amplify them. So yeah, that's the overview of the product. Relatively easy to get set up and moving. We do 30 days free trial, and we have a 90-day performance guarantee on our premium package. If you come in and you're using this at least 3 days a week to publish blogs and other content, we guarantee that you will see a 30% lift or more in your web traffic, or we'll give you your money back. What we've seen so far is people get anywhere from 200 and 300 or 400% increase in web traffic. So that 30% is, we imagine, somebody who's super well optimized, and this is just the next layer for them. But we're quite confident that this will make.
Yeah, I was going to ask what metrics you guys have seen with consistent usage of this.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And what it is I'll just tell you, it's incredible growth because nobody's been able to do this at this volume and this quality before, right? It's like, I could pull up a slide and show you some of the charts that we have of performance from a couple of the people who've been using it. And it just looks like a mountain slope, it just goes up. And that's because humanly, it was not really possible in the past without AI, and so we're kind of giving you a cheat code, to be honest with you. Those who adopt a service like this in the beginning, they're going to build a content moat so great compared to their local competitors that I don't think they're going to be able to keep up, and that's part of business, right? It's like, who selects the best tools for their business, who drives the most business. With this, imagine if AI is trying to determine who's best. And like I said in the beginning, you have those 50 blogs about BMW X5s. You have 10, piece of content about drivetrain. You have 15 about engine rebuilds, and you have 20 about tires and different things you got to do. Who is it going to suggest? Is it going to suggest the company that has a good marketing website that says we're the best in town? Or is it going to suggest the company that has very descriptive details about how this work was done and how they've done it in the past and how they can help you again? Same applies for, I think, any service-based business. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm so excited about this. Like, if you can't tell from this podcast, the conversation we had, like, I'm very stoked.
I think you nailed it. I think probably the hardest part about one of the hardest parts about running a service-based business is reputation management. And I would say 9 out of 10 builders and business owners just don't have a good system of it, of not just telling the story, but using those stories to get, higher paying client, better clients, they're true, like, ideal clients.
Yeah.
And AI is just this is just another use case of like how you can really elevate the capacity of even like a 5-person team, to knock out the work that what otherwise it would take 35, 50 people to accomplish.
Yeah, I think in this case, the reality is you'd have to have at least like 5 or 10 people to do it, or
Yeah.
to do it consistently over time and cover, running business stuff like that. Like, yeah, you can't just have like part-time people working on something to do this scale and this quality. But to speak to the review side of it, yeah, I think that's also a huge part that we kind of glossed over. But we do content for any platform you exist on, and that includes Google reviews. Right now, what does that mean to do content for reviews? Well, I don't know, 5-10 years ago, depending on how advanced your service business is, people started to pick up software that started to help automate things. And one of the first and very highly valuable tools was having automated follow-ups for reviews. Right? You send them a text message, ask for a review. You saw a huge pickup in people who converted and did write a review. Right? But what you're getting a lot is good people, great work, right? Or like, oh, it was really enjoyable. Like, not a lot of details about what you actually did as a service provider. And that's because it takes a lot of time to really think about something meaningful, and then more time to write it out in a succinct way in a review. And so I'm going to share a screen again real quick and just show you a peek at this. But yeah, I mean, part of what we do for you here at Service Stories, and I'll zoom in so you can see this. This is the Google reviews part, is we will help you generate, review text that you can send to them, right? So you can say, hey, it was such a pleasure working with you. We really appreciate it. If you'd be willing, a review like this that they can just copy paste would be super helpful to us. I think it's 2026. People understand reviews are important. And I think that this is a conversation where it's how you ask it. But when you provide them the resource, there's just less thinking for them. And if they believe it, if they agree with this, then it's a very nice thing to help you out. So I think that's going to be the big difference in reviews, though. I think we went into a world where it became a very spam thing. Everybody got blasted with text and all this, so they're kind of sick of it. And I think the next wave of it, you then went into an era where we were trying to do like review gating, still a thing, right? You're trying to only send a review to people who you think are going to be positive reviewers, and a lot of work. And what this can do is, number one, like make it easier for them to provide you a good and meaningful review, but also gives you that opportunity to review gate it, if you want to say it that way, without having it automated. There's like a real curation to this, and hopefully people don't abuse it. Hopefully people really use this to make great customer relationships. Secondarily, what we do is we're going to help you respond to reviews. And I think this is perhaps the even more valuable piece of that, review interface here. This is just you sending one out, but the next phase of it will be to actually help you respond to reviews with that data, with the information from the work item. And that's generally helpful, across the board. It's not as valuable as the customer leaving a real story in the review. The customer is much higher priority than the business owner. But where I think it's going to be the most meaningful is actually like in emergency responses. I can't tell you how many times as the COO at my family's auto shop, we had either a nasty review come in that was false and like just not good, or we had a real emergency where people, somebody in the business did create a problem and we have to own up to it. And then we have to respond. And what our tool does with having all the business context is we can help you draft a PR ready review. Wow. We can help you take that business information, the real photos you had, the real work items you had, the line items, everything, and turn that documentation into responses into responsibility management, right? Crisis management for a lot of people that you're not paid to do. Like that's just part of running a business, and it's ducks, and I know that. So I think we can deep.
Yeah, that's it again. Like that's such a cool use case. It's just it's the core components. Your platform are there in terms of being able to take almost like static pieces of information, be it an invoice or a review or anything, and then turn it into this, like you said, like a PR ready like asset that can be used on numerous platforms.
Yeah.
And it's like whether it's crisis or you've gotten a 5-star review or it's just for internal documentation, like that's the beauty of it, is there's so many different use cases, so many different value adds to the same static PDF.
Yep. And that's where we got the concept for it. The tagline we have is turn your daily work into service stories, right? And a service story doesn't have to be just entertainment. It can be a real factual case study on your website. It can be a social media post that manifests and tells the story of a happy customer. It can be a crisis response that's all based on the work you did daily, and it's all black and white. It's very clear. There's no subjectivity. There's no arguing about it. This is what happened. Here's how we did it. And this is why you should trust us.
That's cool. Yeah. I know you guys are always, it seems like you're actively building out like your partner directory too, just the level of integrations that you guys have. Or the bigger like platforms that you guys hold tickets and information from.
Yeah, we got a lot of requests right now for Service Titan. That's one that we're probably next steps on. We started in automotive, of course, so that's where we sit the most. We also have a Zapier integration. A lot of services integrate that way. And so part of where we're starting is you can use Zapier to integrate. And once we see, or we have people requesting that it's a direct integration, then we start to build that. If we have 10 people sign up and they want to do that, then we'll build it. And it's, you cut out the middleman. You're just there. But for now, that's how we've been doing it. And yeah, Service Titan's a big one. Jobber is a big one, of course. So Field Pulse, we got a couple of requests for Field Pulse. Nice. So we have a lot of them in the early stages of development. They'll be live like in the next 2 or 3 months at the most. And depending on if we have more partners who come on, we can speed that up. So,
I mean, that's the beauty of it too, is, with a Zapier integration, you guys can pull in anything,
Yeah.
If you had an invoice notification in an email, you can pull that in.
That was it, man. That's actually why we started this is we had, this being Zapier integration, we had creative service businesses who wanted like connect their Google Docs and upload statements of work. We had a plumber who didn't have, Jobber or Field Pulse or anything, and they just wanted to email stuff in. They have all their work is in email threads and photos and everything's attachments. So yeah, we built it because of that. We knew there's going to be a lot of different demands that we don't quite have full bandwidth for, but as soon as people sign up and it's a common thing that people want, like that's when we build it. So yeah,
it's epic. Yeah. So I don't want to ask this question because you already showed us like how to get started, but how can people find you if they want to like learn more about your history, data privacy, or just even anything about service stories?
Yeah, well, if they want to learn like my tech background, you can type Joe Toscano in Google and it will be probably number one. I'm not trying to be cocky about it. It just built a big career around it, and I got verified by Google. So I am the Joe Toscano on the internet, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so that's, if you want to find me, LinkedIn is pretty much the only social media I'm on. So Joe Toscano.
I'll be sure to drop a link to your book in the show notes too.
Yeah. I'll send you all the follow-up stuff.
Yeah.
And then for service stories, just go to servicestories.com. I intentionally made it very easy to remember the name. The domain was not cheap, but I think it's going to be the best value I've invested in a long time. Okay. We're very excited to work with all the companies who want to come in and dominate their market through SEO and AI search.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited. I think it's going to make a lot of big waves in a bunch of industries.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it. So, and we've already talked about how you see this working, and I can't wait to talk to more people. It's been the most fun I've ever had in business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely connect quite a bit on this. But thanks so much for coming on, Joe. This was Probably my favorite conversation I've had on the podcast.
Yeah, hell yeah. No, I've had a great time too. I'm very excited to see this in post production. I'm actually excited to see where you clipped. I mean, there's so much. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like having a great time here, but I think that was a great conversation.
Yeah, we'll see how it comes back with what it thinks we should prioritize.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But yeah, man, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll chat soon.
for sure. All right, talk to you later.
Bye. Look, my entire mission with this series is to see talented builders and business owners stop getting run over by operational chaos and to actually start building the business they deserve. If this episode gave you even one tool or 1% of a tool to fight back, please share it with a fellow builder. Help me spread the word. That is all I ask. So make sure you subscribe so you're ready for the next one. Until then, systems scale your success.